Hello everyone, welcome back to the Scripture Sanctuary. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that affects all of us at some point in our lives, handling difficult people. But we're taking it a step further by exploring this from a biblical perspective. How did some of the most influential figures in the Bible deal with adversity, criticism, and difficult individuals? Let's find out. We will also discuss 10 tips on how to deal with and respond to difficult people in a godly, Jesus-like manner. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on empowering content like this. Now, let's jump right in. We often encounter difficult people in our personal and professional lives. The Bible provides profound wisdom on this matter. Let's turn to Proverbs 15:1, which says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." This verse reminds us of the power of responding with kindness, even in challenging situations. Now, let's examine how Jesus, the ultimate example, dealt with difficult people. In Matthew 5:44, he said, "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Imagine the strength it takes to respond to adversity with love and prayer. It's a powerful lesson for us all. How do we respond boldly, yet godly? Consider the moment when Jesus was questioned about his divinity. In John 8:58, Jesus boldly declares, "Before Abraham was born, I am." He responded with truth and authority, yet with a deep understanding of his divine purpose. We can learn to stand firm in our beliefs, responding boldly, but always with grace. Let's now shift our focus to Apostle Paul. In Romans 12:20, he shares an interesting perspective. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. This challenges us to respond to hostility with kindness, turning our adversaries into allies through love. Paul faced criticism throughout his ministry. In 2 Corinthians 10:10, some accused him of being weak in person but powerful in his letters. How did Paul respond? He addressed the criticism without retaliating, emphasizing that his true power came from God. This teaches us to respond to criticism with humility and reliance on God's strength. Let's remember that handling difficult people is an art. By incorporating biblical principles into our responses, we can navigate challenging situations with confidence and grace. Psychologists often provide practical and evidence-based strategies for dealing with difficult people. Integrating these psychological insights with a godly, Jesus-like approach can offer a well-rounded perspective. Here are 10 tips for responding to difficult people in a manner inspired by Jesus' teachings. 1. Practice empathy. Understand the other person's perspective and emotions. Empathy involves understanding another person's feelings and perspective. It fosters connection and mutual understanding. Matthew 22:39 says to love your neighbor as yourself. Show compassion and seek to understand the other's struggles. Jesus consistently demonstrated empathy, such as when he showed compassion to the crowds in Matthew 9:36 and interacted with individuals like the Samaritan woman in John 4 verses 1 to 26. Cultivate a compassionate heart, seeking to understand the struggles and emotions of difficult individuals. 2. Maintain calmness. Stay composed to think rationally and respond effectively. Remaining calm in the face of conflict allows for clearer thinking and more effective communication. Jesus remained calm during trials, such as in the face of accusations in Matthew 27:11-14 when Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?" But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. Jesus maintained composure during these intense situations, like in the Garden of Gethsemane in Matthew 26:36-46, when he went to pray while his soul was overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death, knowing very well he was about to endure the cross. Reflect on the tranquility that Jesus exemplified and do your best to respond with a peaceful spirit. 3. Active listening. Listen attentively to what the person is saying to grasp their concerns. Active listening involves giving full attention, reflecting, and responding to what the other person is saying. Jesus was an active listener, often responding to people's deeper needs. In Mark 10:46-52, as Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," said Jesus. "Your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. Show that you value their thoughts and feelings. Jesus engaged in meaningful conversations, actively listening to people's concerns, like in Mark 5, verses 25-34. When he said to the woman who had the issue of blood for 12 years, who courageously touched the hem of his garment for her healing, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." Practice active, listening to understand the needs and emotions behind difficult behavior. 4. Set boundaries. Establishing boundaries is crucial for maintaining emotional well-being and preventing burnout. Jesus set boundaries when needed, withdrawing to pray or rest in Mark 1:35 and Matthew 14:23. Prioritize self-care without compromising your values. Jesus prioritized self-care by taking breaks for prayer and solitude, like in Mark 1:35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place, where he prayed. Luke 5:16 says that Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. It's important to set healthy boundaries to protect your emotional and spiritual health. 5. Respond, don't react. Responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively allows for more constructive communication. It's almost inevitable that at some point someone will disagree with you, correct you, or critique your ideas. In these moments, a whirlwind of emotions can stir within you. Bitterness, hurt, frustration, disappointment, shame, and anger may all make their presence known. It's important to recognize that some of these feelings may not only be valid, but true. It's natural to feel ignored, taken advantage of, unseen, or even less than what you believe you deserve. What if you allowed frustration, disappointment, or hurt to dictate your actions? Visualize the consequences of acting out of these emotional states. Does it result in increased influence and respect? Does it make the situation better? Does it genuinely make you feel better? Chances are, the answer to these questions is a resounding no. Instead, consider an alternative approach. Take a moment to pause and acknowledge the feelings that have arisen within you. Validate them without allowing them to control your actions. This is where emotional intelligence and mental toughness come into play. Leaders who embody emotional intelligence understand that emotions are a natural part of the human experience, but they don't let those emotions overpower their decision-making process. Embracing emotional intelligence means choosing to respond with humility, clarity, and maturity. It means living up to a higher standard, even when your emotions are tempting you to do otherwise. The mentally tough and emotionally intelligent leaders are the ones who consistently choose to live the standard regardless of how they feel. Making a thoughtful response instead of succumbing to an emotional reaction is a mark of true leadership. It requires the ability to recognize the power of response versus reaction. When you react impulsively based on emotions, you relinquish control over the situation and potentially damage your relationships and influence. On the other hand, responding thoughtfully allows you to maintain composure, consider the bigger picture, and navigate challenges with a clear mind. If we look at the Jesus-like approach, Jesus responded to provocations with wisdom, such as when questioned by the Pharisees in Matthew 22:15-22. They were trying to set Jesus up and trap him with his words, but Jesus responded with grace and discernment. Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, "You hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin used for paying the tax." They brought him a denarius, and he asked them, "Whose image is this, and whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then he said to them, "So give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, so they left him and went away. Take a moment to think before responding, choosing words and actions wisely. 6. Forgiveness. Psychological insight. Release resentment for your own emotional well-being. Forgiveness is a powerful tool for releasing negative emotions and promoting mental well-being. Jesus-like approach. Colossians 3:13 commands, "Forgive as the Lord forgave you." Cultivate a forgiving heart, recognizing that forgiveness benefits both parties. Jesus forgave those who wronged him, even on the cross in Luke 23:34. Practice forgiveness, recognizing its healing impact on both yourself and others. 7. Model humility. Humility fosters positive interactions and resolution. Jesus, despite his divinity, washed his disciples' feet, exemplifying humility in John 13, verses 1-17. Approach difficult situations with a humble spirit. 8. Choose your battles. Not every battle is worth fighting. Prioritize issues. Choosing your battles means being selective of the problems, arguments, and confrontations you get involved in, and instead saving your energy for the things that matter. This means, rather than fight every single problem, you fight the most important battles and let go of the rest. Why is it important to choose your battles? 1. Not everything is important. Some things simply don't matter in the long run. If you think about what matters 5, 10, or even 20 years from now, it's apparent that many of the things we worry about are small, and we should instead focus on the big rocks. 2. Every battle takes up time. Every problem you engage in takes up time and energy. Even if you win that battle, maybe your time could have been better spent elsewhere. Victory isn't all that matters sometimes. Making the best use of your time is. 3. We all have limited time on Earth. Ultimately, the reason all these matter is that we have limited time on Earth. You and I will die someday. When you look back at your life from your deathbed, what do you want to see? A life where you worried about every little thing and argued with everyone who stood in your way? Or a meaningful life well lived, where you spent your time only on the things that mattered, such as the people you love and things that help the world? Jesus chose his battles wisely, addressing critical issues rather than engaging in unnecessary conflicts. In Matthew 21:12-13, Jesus deemed it necessary to boldly address all who were buying and selling in the temple courts. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. "It is written," he said to them, "My house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers." We need only to focus on what truly matters. Tip number 9, pray for guidance. Seeking guidance through prayer can provide wisdom and a sense of inner peace and clarity. Jesus often prayed for guidance, especially during significant decisions like in Luke 6:12, when he went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. Turn to prayer for strength, wisdom, and discernment in handling difficult situations. Lastly, tip number 10. Lead by example. Model the behavior you want to see in others. Jesus led by example, demonstrating love, compassion, and grace. In John 13:34-35, Jesus says, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Demonstrate the qualities you wish to see in others, inspiring positive change through your actions. By combining psychological principles with the teachings of Jesus, you can navigate challenging relationships with wisdom, compassion, and grace. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with those who might benefit from these insights. And of course, subscribe for more empowering content. Thank you for joining me today on the Scripture Sanctuary. Remember, you have the power to respond boldly yet godly to difficult people, just as some of the greatest biblical figures did. Stay empowered, stay positive, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and God bless.